Hi YouTube, welcome to or back to the channel. I hope you guys are excited for today's video. This is a different style of video for us today. Yay! I thought it would be very informative and helpful to other feeding tube parents or G-tube parents or people who are just interested in general. Of course, if you're here and you already know what's going on and you're still watching this, thank you. You're an OG. I appreciate you. Basically, I'm just going to go through G-tube 101. Everything there is to know about G-tubes, the basics, the equipment, the things that we've done that have made our lives easier over the 2 years plus that we have had G-tubes. As you guys probably know, or maybe you don't, all of my triplets have G-tubes. All 3 of them. So I feel like, you know, I could probably be a G-tube expert at this point. So I'm gonna help you out. We also have, Daxon technically has a J-tube. It's in his intestines. So let's get started. Let's just do it. So firstly, let's talk about why, in our case, our triplets were born at 27 weeks, very early. 1 pound, 2 pounds was the heaviest. So a lot of people don't realize that when your kid is born early, they actually don't get the time that they need to learn to practice the sucking and swallowing in utero. Of course, when they're born, they want them to eventually be able to start bottles as soon as possible, but they have to make sure that they're at a steady and safe level of oxygen before they're able to try bottles. They can't be on a super high level of support because it risks aspiration for the baby. You know, by the time they're able to try bottles, they have built up an oral aversion. Sometimes that can be due to the feeding tube being down their throat for so long, or just negative experiences up and around their face. The biggest reason, obviously, for our kids needing feeding tubes was because they were on oxygen support so long that by the time that they were able to eat, they didn't have any interest in it and didn't understand the concept, basically. Croy was the closest to picking up on bottle feeds. Unfortunately, he didn't, so we went with the feeding tube after he had sat in the hospital 4 months. That was the only thing keeping him there, was working on bottles, and he was not able to finish bottles. Daxon and Ezra, I can go into more detail with that later, but they had specific conditions that basically prevented them from starting to learn to eat earlier. They won't need feeding tubes forever, hopefully. The process of coming off of a feeding tube just requires a lot of therapy and time, patience, and then basically learning that their mouths can move in that way and understanding it's not a negative experience for them. I'm going to show you guys the equipment and all the stuff that goes into taking care of a feeding tube, and yeah, all sorts. So really quick, before I get started on showing you everything, I just wanted to show you what the feeding tube looks like. Some of you, this probably isn't new to, but this goes straight into the belly, and this comes undone, and that's where his extension will go, which I will show you what that means later. So this is the box that the G-tubes come in, and there's all different sizes of G-tubes. I have a cheat sheet, of course, but I think 2 of the boys have the same size and 1 has a different size. We have to change these every 3 months with them. So also, our kiddos all use the mini buttons, but there is also Mickey buttons, and those are just basically a different type of G-tube. They do the same thing, they're just 2 different types. So whenever you open this up, you are going to see all the contents that you need for a G-tube change. So when we open this up, you're going to see stuff that we're going to need for the G-tube change. Mostly all we're going to use is this lubricant, this syringe. Here is the new G-tube. And then this is a stylus that goes inside of the G-tube to make it stiffer for the change, basically. And then I'll show you guys kind of what the rest of this is in just a second. So here is the actual G-tube and what it looks like. So you guys saw it like this on Croy's skin, but the underneath goes into the belly like this. So when we change the G-tube, we put this little stylus in like that, and then it goes down into the belly. We take that out, and then we'll have to fill it up with water. So then obviously we have to be able to feed them somehow. This doesn't feed itself. So this is called an extension. So this is going to plug directly into the top of the G-tube right there where it lines up, and then you turn it to lock it into place, basically making sure it's not going to come like unconnected whenever they're rolling around or moving or doing whatever they do. At the bottom here, you're going to see there's 2 different ports. So this port is what connects to our feeding bag, which I'll show you. So this is a feeding bag right here, and at the very end is what is going to connect into here. This is connected to the triplets and then all the way to the bag. And the bag, I'm going to show you guys in a minute how that works with the pump and how we put all of that in and whatever, but that's the gist of that. The biggest and one of the most important things when working with a G-tube is that you always have to have something in the line. You don't want to start the pump and have this pushing air into your kid's belly. So every single day, this is what we use to prime the bag. It's just like a little doohickey. You can do this with the feeding pump, but it works a lot faster with water through the line, just priming it by hand. hand. So basically when I hold this down, water is gonna go all the way through the tubing, and you wanna prime all the way through the extension. So to keep the G-tube in place, I'm going to fill up a little syringe that it comes with, by the way. Each G-tube has different amounts of water that goes into what's called their balloon. So this one's like a 2.5 balloon. So I'll draw up 2.5 mLs of water. And then just to give you guys a demonstration, so again, this is the G-tube. Trying not to get myself in focus. On the very end here, there's a spot that the syringe plugs into. And so what this will do is, again, this is the part that is inside their stomach. When I push this, you're going to see that balloon inflate. So that is what is keeping the feeding tube inside their belly and keeps it from obviously falling out of the skin, because trust me, it will. We've had a couple balloons go defective or get holes in them and their G-tubes fell out. So another nice thing about the G-tube is that because it has these 2 ports, even if it didn't and it just had 1 port, we can give all the meds through this, because obviously if they can't eat by mouth, they're not gonna be able to take meds by mouth. So literally we get these syringes, we get 5 million of them a month, and we can drop their meds, and then it just screws right into this. Hopefully that's clear. And then literally just gives the meds. Should have thought that through a little bit better. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you guys is the feeding pump. Bear with me, my camera is like, my tripod broke, so I'm trying to set it up. Anyways, I'm going to show you guys in a little bit how I get the feeding bag to hang from it, but basically what this has to do is hang, and then this part, which I told you earlier, primes the water. You can also prime it by the pump. You have to have this in there in order to run the food. So we're going to put that in there, stretches around like this. And then we just close it. And then of course this has to hang higher than the pump so that it doesn't get a kink. It's telling me I haven't pressed anything in a long time. So again, I'm not gonna keep this on because I wanna show you guys the pump, but that's the gist of it. So a close-up look at the feeding pump. We have the on-off button, which it's obviously on already. And then we have feeding interval. I don't ever touch that. If I hit volume, Corey has not eaten anything today, so it's gonna say 0, but the volume button will always tell you how much food they've gotten in the day, unless you clear it out. So I always clear out the volume. The prime button is what I told you guys. You can prime the bag of water or food by using that button. If you don't wanna do it by hand, it's a lot faster to do it by hand, so I always just do it by hand. Then you have the run pause button, which is obvious. You can run the food and then you can pause the food if you need to stop for any reason. And then you have the rate and dose button. So that one's the most important. So for instance, your dose is going to be set to, for us, it's easiest to set it for what the triplets get for the whole day. They all get different amounts. So Corey right now is only getting like 600 mLs. Honestly, he's not even getting that anymore. It's like 460. So normally his dose will be set to like 460, okay? And then the rate is how many mLs per hour. So say that his dose was 600. If I want that to run over 6 hours, then I would set his rate at 100 mLs per hour, because 100 times 6 is 600. So basically that's all that is. You can run it at a rate of fast or slow. Daxon's is slow because of his esophagus issues. So that's what those are kind of, you know, set at. So I got the brilliant idea. I drew up some food coloring so you guys can see how we give meds while a feed is running. Let's pretend this food is running. I'm just going to pause the pump. And then what I'm gonna do is, again, this is still hooked up to Ezra while he's sleeping. I'm going to clamp it because I'm gonna undo this side. And if I undo this side without clamping it, I'll show you, everything just came out. It will either come out this or the top of this. If this was actually plugged in, it would come out the top of this. We don't want that to happen. You're going to clamp it, then we undo this right here. We're gonna hook up our fake food coloring medication here. If you try to push this while it's clamped, it's not gonna go. So we're going to unclamp it, and then we're going to push our med through. So it's gonna come straight through his tube. And then when we're done with whatever med, we clamp it again, because again, if I don't clamp this and I undo the syringe, all of that is going to come shooting out. So we clamp it, undo it, close this, unclamp, and then we can hit run again. So now I'm going to show you guys my holy grail of G-tube stuff. The best of all is a port cover. So what this bad guy is going to do is it's going to go around your feeding tube. The clamp and the port where the food is attached, and it's going to clamp around it, because I can tell you right now, these kids are smart. They figure out how to clamp it, undo it, mess with it. If they undo their feeding pump, they're going to be covered in food in the middle of the night, obviously. If they clamp it, the pump is going to stop running and it's going to start alarming. You'll either hear it and wake up, which is annoying, or you won't hear it, your kid won't get fed at all. So that's fun. These are the best. They have not yet figured out how to get these off. Hopefully they will not. Next are these little attachment devices. You should get these from your home care company or your whoever delivers your supplies, because if you have a feeding tube, you're getting medical supplies. Ask them about these if you don't get them. This one's called a cinch. Basically, this is what sticks to the belly, and then this little piece like tucks in. I don't know if you guys can see that. And you pull it tight and it holds the tube. I like these, but they're a lot easier for them to yank off. The FlexiTrack is what we use. So this is the part that sticks to their skin. So it's just like this. And then this wraps like this and squeezes, and it holds the feeding tube in place. I can show you guys that in a second when I show you guys how the dressings work, because I'm going to show you the dressings on the children. These are also great. These are feeding pump holders. I don't use this one really as much anymore. I used to use it a lot, but the feeding pump screws into it and then the bag hangs here and it keeps it to where it doesn't get kinks in it, basically. I prefer this one because you can undo this and that makes it pretty much be able to attach anywhere. We attach them to command hooks or the stroller, their cribs. Now we attach them to the IV poles, and then each of them have their names engraved. I got all these on Etsy. Like anything that you see that's customizable, I got on Etsy. Use these, like I said, and then on the back I did little cheat sheets of each kiddo's rate and dose and like what time they get their feeds at. So that's been helpful for our nurses to not get confused. And then lastly we have our wraps. These are from Kangarootique. Love them. I will not get any wraps from anywhere else ever again. It's not a sponsored post. She's so sweet. I just love her. These are $15 and they're the cheapest I found them. I have the same one that I somehow spent like $25 on from a different place, and it's not near as good. This is like such comfy fabric and soft. And so basically what this does is, you can imagine, wraps around the kiddo. It just helps to keep another, form of the G2 in place. Croy likes to like get under his shirt or into his clothes and like mess with his, so that prevents that from happening. I actually put his on backwards so that he can't get to this strap. Another thing I like is that there's like a couple different spots where they have extra little pockets. And so what I do is I put these on the kiddos at night during their bedtime routine, but we still have like an hour before they actually get into bed. So I'll like wrap their G-tube up into here, like their tubing, and then loop it so that it's not hanging down, because if it's hanging and they're stepping on it, it's getting ripped out. No fun. And then the other thing I like is this pocket on here. So if you put this directly to where it'll match up with the baby's G-tube, you can undo this. So if you wanted to have like a wrap on your kiddo all day, you could undo this and then you have access like straight to the G-tube, if that makes sense. Love these. Love these. So let's take a look at the actual G-tube on the kiddos and show you the dressings.
Look.
Can you say hi? Say hi.
Hi.
I was about to show you guys dressings, but I was like, that is too cute to just... You're so sweet. Okay, dressing time. So last thing I was going to show you is dressings. It's fine. He's mad because I won't let him move. So this is the kind of dressing Ezra has. I'm going to show you guys the different types and why we use which ones. But basically, all this is a slit cut into the dressing. Sorry, I was not showing. And yeah, it just goes like right around. His is a little inflamed right now, but the team knows, so no one panic. Okay, so dressings. So there is Mepilex Light, very thin. Croy uses this one just because his G-tube doesn't leak very much. I'm assuming that's probably because he doesn't use his as much as his brothers do now that he's just eating at nighttime for a few hours. The next one is regular Mepilex. So it's kind of like Mepilex Light, but thicker. I use this for Ezra because his has been really like inflamed lately and it just absorbs more. And since his has been leaking a lot more lately, I like using this one for him right now. And then this is a Polymem, so it's pink, it's thick, it absorbs so good. So actually, since Daxon's leaks a lot because his is in his intestines, we put one of these on bottom and then actually one of these on top. His G-tube is also a lot looser than his brother's, again, which is why it leaks so much. So there wouldn't be room to put two dressings for Croy and Ezra's G-tubes. It would be like way too like pull on the skin. And then the last one is just the reusable ones. These I would just use whenever it's convenient, whenever we need to, I don't know, use a reusable one. So that's it. That's all for dressings. That's all for G-tubes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative, and we will see you in the next one. I love you guys.